And how about the stories not written in history books?
I simply needed a paycheck.
The angry artist from Austria has been portrayed in the media and especially in movies, TV and literature in 100 different ways, including in several interesting ones, such as living on the moon and riding a dinosaur, being a sitcom neighbor to a Jewish couple, and to a mahjong master who battles the Pope and has the power to transform into a legendary super Aryan level 1, 2 and 3. But to not be outdone, some game developers try to go just as crazy with their portrayal of Hitler, and this is what this video is all about the earliest bizarre appearances of Hitler in Commodore 64 and NES games, as well as the most recent ones in AAA and indie titles. Or, in other words, this is a lesson in alternative history based on video games covering Hitler before, during, and weirdly enough, after the war. According to several sources, the first time Hitler appears in a video game is in June 1984 in Beyond Castle Wolfenstein. In this game, the player is tasked to place a bomb outside a room where Hitler is holding a meeting with the top brass. But in the first version of the game, released on Apple II computers, Hitler does not really look like himself, even though the endgame screen says that you killed him. Luckily, in just a month in July, the Commodore 64 version was released where he gained his iconic haircut and mustache, which he did not lose in the subsequent versions of the game. However, at a similar time in July 1984, another game which was only released in Japan included a portrayal of the angry Austrian. Roughly translated as Tests of Hell, in this game you play as an angel sent to hell to endure some tests and meet the locals, including, in addition to Hitler, Napoleon, John Wayne, John Lennon, Marilyn Monroe, and of course, Dracula. Sadly, the exact date when this game was released is lost to time, but there is still a possibility that Tests of Hell provided our first view of a recognizable Hitler in a video game. After that, Hitler took a break, only appearing again in 1988 in Bionic Commando as the main antagonist. There, he was called Master D, but given that the original Japanese title of the game was Hitler's Resurrection Top Secret, it's easy to guess who he really was. Similarly, in 1988, the main antagonist in the NES spy thriller Golgo 13 Top Secret episode was called Smirk, but he was essentially Cyber Hitler. In 1989, he also appeared in an Indiana Jones game, but he did not do much there. Then, in 1989, he appeared as one of the enemies in a Japanese-only shogi game. Weirdly enough, he did it again in 3 years by appearing in another shogi game alongside Lincoln, Genghis Khan, Gandhi, and others. Though, sadly, these appearances are not that interesting given that by that point he did not have his super Aryan powers yet. In 1990, he, together with his right-hand man Himmler, appeared in an RPG Escape from Hell, as a resident of Hell who you can attract to your party with his autobiography, Mein Kampf. This marks the first somewhat mainstream game where you do not just fight or meet him, but can play as him. And, spoiling the later parts of the video a bit, I think this is one of the more normal games where you play as him. After that, in 1991, he appeared for the first time in a strategy game that I won't try to pronounce. He also appeared in many others later on as one of the leaders or through a cameo, though I will not discuss them too much in detail later if these appearances will not be noteworthy. Also in 1991, he got possessed by a devil and was one of the bosses in the time-traveling RPG Time Twist. Then, in 1992, he was a giant head disguised as the main antagonist in Total Carnage arcade version. And also in 1992, he made one of his most iconic appearances as the final boss in Wolfenstein 3D. Though, compared to what we had before and will have later, this appearance is quite dull, with the only noteworthy part is that when you defeat him you get a gory instant replay. Then we enter a drought, as the angry Austrian only sporadically showed up in several strategy games, including in 1996 in Command & Conquer Red Alert where he was killed by Einstein. He also showed up in FPS Mortier, where he was an immortal NPC, as well as in a Japanese Monopoly type game and its sequel as one of the playable characters. Damn, the Japanese use Hitler in weird ways. Speaking of which, in 1999 we got weird again as he appeared in Persona 2 Innocent Sin. In this game rumors become reality, and lucky for Hitler, a new conspiracy book about him surviving and escaping was just released. But this is only true for the PlayStation version, as in the PSP re-release he was replaced by a completely different character with 6 shades by the name of Führer. Though in both cases this character is fake, as he's just a disguise for the main antagonist of the game, a demon by the name of Nailed it. After that, we enter another period of Hitler mainly appearing as himself without any cybernetics or powers in different strategy and some FPS games. But we still got some gold, as in 2006 he appeared in a relatively straightforward strategy game, Rush for Berlin, where he is included in several fun cinematics, some of which you already saw. And then, after a year, the Japanese, as they did already, came to the rescue by including Hitler in a turn-based RPG, Operation Darkness. This game revolves around a more fantastic World War II, where the protagonists can use magic, some can transform into werewolves, and you battle Nazi zombies and vampires. In this game, Hitler is one of the main villains who controls a supernatural army, which includes a Nazi dragon. But even with the Nazi dragon, he's no match to the main protagonists and their power of spontaneous combustion. Then, veiled in shadows, in 2008 Hitler sort of returns in Bionic Commando rearmed, as even with his beauty hidden, you know it's him because of the iconic head explosion. But you cannot keep him down for long, as in 2009 he returns again in Time Gentlemen, Please, where he together with his army of gun-wielding dinosaurs rule the world. And then the protagonists travel through time, change history and make him no more. In 2009 he also appeared in a strategy game, Stalin vs Martians, called by GameSpot perhaps the worst RTS game ever created. In this game you control an army unit in a battle against the Martians. And at the end of the game you go to Mars and fight alien Hitler as a giant Stalin. Then, after showing up in a strategy game or two, being mentioned in Assassin's Creed 2 and Dino D-Day, he makes his next iconic appearance as one of the main villains in the Sniper Elite and Nazi Zombies Army series of games. First, in the Sniper series of games he predominantly appeared from the second one, in the DLCs where you have to kill him. In the beginning he was just another target, with the only noteworthy exception being that unlike other enemies, he had only one testicle that you can make go boom. After the developers played Hitman though, in Sniper Elite 4 they decided to have some fun by introducing a variety of elaborate ways to off him. But in the Zombie Army series of games, which is a standalone expansion for Sniper Elite, he has a much bigger role. In the first zombie game, he raises the dead with an occult ritual as a last-ditch effort to win World War II. But the plan backfires a bit in the second game, as the zombies eat him because he doesn't have all the parts of a magical MacGuffin to protect him. But then in the third game, we find out that you cannot truly kill the angry Austrian, which is sort of the theme of this video, really, as he becomes Zombie Hitler, the ruler of the Zombie Reich. After this self-inflicted promotion, he starts to manufacture zombies and weapons in his secret lair. Also guess he harnesses the power of milk or something as he becomes a big boy for the final confrontation with the protagonists. But with a bit of elbow grease and the power of cremation, the protagonists manage to drain the milk from the big guy. This sounded more dirty than intended. Anyhow, continuing. Then they throw him into a pit of hell to stop him from ever coming back. But then he comes back in Zombie Army 4. Or, more specifically, he learns how to harness the powers of hell, gets revived by a cult, creates and rides a sick hell machine, and then is killed by the protagonists, this time for realsies, with a magical MacGuffin number 574. In addition, going back in time, in 2014 Wolfenstein The New Order revived Hitler in an Easter egg, where he just lays there, menacingly, before bringing him back for real in 2017 in Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus. In this new Wolfenstein universe, Nazis rule the world. But Hitler decided that he wants more, and so he becomes a movie director, with of course all of his works being certified hits. Weirdly enough, I think this is one of the only games where his artistic parts matter at all. Though, I guess when someone is to blame for so many deaths, their other hobbies get overshadowed a bit. Anyway, he also decides that his next movie will be about the villain BJ Blazkowicz, the main protagonist of the Wolfenstein series. Luckily, Blazkowicz catches wind of this and manages to infiltrate the Nazi base on Venus to audition. Oh, and Ronald Reagan is also there, but I don't think he gets the role. Instead, with his passionate acting, a disguised Blazkowicz manages to impress Hitler enough to get cast.
Is that what you wanted? Is that what you had in mind? You Nazi assholes. 'Cause that's all you're getting.
Though, sadly, after this, Hitler and Blazkowicz part ways. And this is the last time we see Hitler in a Wolfenstein game. But in a Wolfenstein spin-off / atrocity, Young Blood, it is mentioned that sometime after Wolfenstein 2, Blazkowicz kills Hitler, which is likely to be the plot of Wolfenstein 3, if we get it. In 2017, he also sort of appears as the main antagonist in Raid World War II. I say sort of as he only appears in Red Alert style post-mission cinematics. In these cinematics, he acts very kooky and is predominantly there to be a comedic relief. And that's pretty much it for the angry artist from Austria in mainstream games. But for dessert, I left some of his interesting appearances in indie titles. Though, to be honest, almost all his indie appearances are not very good, as he's predominantly used for shock value and for comedy. The only somewhat interesting indie games I found him in are Heal Hitler, where you play as a psychologist trying to cure his trauma to prevent the war, and Führer in LA, an alternative history game where Hitler after the war arrives in LA due to a mix-up, which he has to escape. Don't have much to say beyond this, except that if you like to torture yourself, you can find more of these gems on Steam. And this is it. These are the most interesting appearances of Hitler in video games. Did I miss any? For sure. But I did it on purpose to push people to leave a comment and not because of my incompetence. And, quoting the immortal words of Charlie Kelly, so do.